Good morning, everyone. Just calling this meeting to order. I think that almost everybody's here, and what we're going to do is, if Councillor Augimeri is not here in time, then I'll hold her item. But in saying that, I'm just going to, first of all, I'll again welcome everybody to meeting 11 of the Parks and Environment Committee. And for those in the room with us, the screen at the back of the room provides real-time updates concerning where we are in the agenda and what's coming up next. And you can follow the agenda and debate on your computer, tablet, or smartphone at www.toronto.ca/council. And so are there any declarations of interest on the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none. Confirmation of the minutes, February 25th, moved by Councillor Doucette. All those in favor, approved, and that carries. Almost. And we do have a presentation today, or sorry, speakers on deputation on 11.1, and which is the donation from Downtown Yonge Business Improvement Area for College Park, Skating Trail, and Rink House. But moving on to item number 11.2, I'll hold that item for Councillor Augimeri. So I guess we'll just swing back around to item PE 11.1, and the first speaker is Mark Garner. Hi, Mr. Garner, how are you?
Very good.
Wonderful.
Good morning to everybody.
Thank you. And if you haven't been here before, I'll just let you know that it's 5 minutes, and then the committee may ask you some questions.
That's great.
Thank you.
Appreciate this opportunity. Morning again. I just want to come and give, I'm Mark Garner, the Executive Director of the Downtown Yonge PIA. Really wanted to thank and appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you today in regards to College Park. It is a, we wanted to lend an additional voice to the staff report that you're reviewing today. So just a little bit of context into our area and what the Downtown Yonge BIA, our current catchment is we basically are responsible for the area from Richmond Street to Alexander Street, which is just north of College in Carleton. Our lived experience in the neighborhood is fairly extensive. We're seeing a lot of evolution of our high street retail. In regards to, we have 3.5 million square feet of both mall and high street retail. Our lived experience is 175,000 people currently within a 10-minute walk of College and Yonge. And our lived or worked experience is about 580,000 people. So that's basically the population of Oslo or Waterloo region commutes to our area every day. We are the 3 busiest subway stations in the entire line. We handle over 36% of the entire traffic flow for the Yonge line. College is probably the least popular of the stations of our 3 stations, being Yonge and Dundas as being the #1 station in the entire line. Our intersection is the busiest intersection in Canada. We have, on average, 100,000 people will cross that intersection on a day-to-day basis, and we have 42 million people that walk north and south on Yonge Street on an annual basis. The Eaton Centre sees well over 50 million people into its location. And again, the number of subway and TTC stops and starts, 52 million people on our 3 stations. One of the things that we do a little differently in regards to the Downtown Yonge BIA specifically is we really work to put our organization through 3 filters. Our member and community engagement. We work a lot with all the neighborhood associations within our catchment, really to try and make sure that what the neighborhood wants is what we're building for Yonge Street. We do an economic value, but that's mostly direct impact spend in the neighborhood, but also indirect spend. So any of the festivals and events that we do, we know all the economics of our area, as well as the spin-off economics into other services. And we apply a social innovation filter. What that basically means is we want to ensure that we're talking about the wellness of community. So as an example, we survey our entire neighborhood. We find out what festivals and events they want. We do something called Ice, Wine, and Dine, which then has an economic impact value to our neighborhood for our members, but then we also do donations for a martini bar. Any of those funds that are generated from that bar then go towards Raise the Roof, because we're trying to end homelessness and be an advocate for homelessness issues in Toronto. We are mentioned in numerous reports, but specifically around the Park People Report. And we're mentioned for our park activations, our Celebrate Young initiative, our public realm strategy, as well as our laneway projects. So just to touch briefly on our laneway projects and cleanups, we have 1.6 kilometers of laneways in our area. Yonge Street in its current design cannot handle the 42 million people that walk it, so we look at our laneways as additional public realm assets that need to be programmed, cleaned, maintained on a regular basis. And this is just an image of the work that we do in our laneways. We clean them on an annual basis, both in the spring and in the fall. And this is a compilation of community stakeholders. So it's social agencies, it is Ryerson University. We have all our Live, Work, Play, Learn partners come out and participate to take ownership. People forget that Yonge Street is a neighborhood. And I think we've lost part of that over the time. So I think that's a key focus for our BIA. McGill-Granby parkettes, we have improved last year. One of the things that we do very well in our area, I'd like to use an IT analogy. At the city and BIA specifically, we're very good at the hardware, pouring the concrete, pavers, sidewalks, those types of things. Where we need to excel at is the software, the programmability and usability. So with all our park renovations, we look at programmability and maintenance of the space. So there's always hydro connections and water connections so we can maintain the space, and then we program it. So after we spent over $800,000 on these parks last year, here is our Play the Parks initiative in McGill-Granby Parkette. We also program College Park. We also do Trinity Park. These are great assets within the city that we need to make sure are maintained and used. One of the biggest surprises that we found as part of our park activation is the Toronto Public Health reached out to us because we're making our neighborhood healthier. We have more people coming out at lunch hours to participate in music, exercise programs, or any of the arts that we put in the park. And we were invited to be a keynote speaker at the Active City Summit recently. This is an image we like to use just to demonstrate just the evolution of our neighborhood. This is just everything in purple shows all the recent developments that are coming up in our area. This is all condominium development or residential or employment cluster changes. And then we overlay all the construction on street space. Our growth is anticipated over the next 15 years to grow by 43%. The city average is being forecast at 47%. So you're seeing that our neighborhood is one of the key contributors to the evolution and the growth in Toronto. And this was just an example I wanted to put up just to demonstrate, if you haven't been to our neighborhood in a while, this is just on the corner of Yonge and Gerrard. The total number of condominiums, there's going to be 7 towers on that corner. And that's 508 stories of development with over 4,500 new residential in that space and a 300-room capacity boutique hotel. So through that, we launched our Young Love campaign to really talk about park space and the...
Sorry, Mr. Garner, it's 7 minutes, so just if you could wrap up, that'd be
I
great.
am.
Thank you. And I'm
thank
sure
you.
so many people will ask you
Right.
questions,
Okay.
so.
So park space is key, and obviously College Park plays a key initiative in that. And this is, again, one of our initiatives to include the community in revitalization of College Park. And this is before and after pictures of the work that we do. But obviously, this transition is key. So we're here to bring a voice and really demonstrate the importance of community engagement partnership. The public realm is the public's realm, and we're here to make a contribution of $250,000 to this initiative and make sure that it's not just the burden on the City of Toronto for these types of things, but BIAs and community engagement as well.
Great, thank you so much. And questions of the deputant? Yep, Councillor Doucette.
So you've got a bit of development coming into your ward.
Yes.
Yeah. Are you incorporating schools and community centres into these towers?
That is one of the key points that we're advocating for now is the social fabric, to make sure the libraries and community centers are part of that redevelopment. Specifically, the Chelsea Hotel that's coming down is supposed to be 4 towers. We're actually advocating for increased park space and then as well as those communities facilities.
Yeah, because you need schools. You can't be sending your people out on the subways to get to schools, can you?
Correct.
I'm sorry, the subway's wonderful to get to school. All right. Sorry, guys. This 250,000 I think is wonderful. I think that's great. Are you going to be, is there any plan in the future? So once it's been built, well, obviously a maintenance cost, I think it was 188,000 a year?
That is what's in the room.
Are you helping with that, or is that going to be on the city from then?
No, we would engage in all sort of cleanups. We're one of the only BIAs that has a downtown cleans team that basically cleans Yonge Street and all our park space on a daily basis. We're out on the street 363 days a year. So we will continue, and we'll look for friends of College Park as well, the group that we've helped organize and coordinate. We'll be looking at this space on an ongoing basis.
I think it's great. Thank you very much, and thank you for all the work you do downtown. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions of the deputant? No, seeing none. Thank you so much for your presentation and wonderful work that you've done with the BIA.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. So move the motion. Somebody wants to? Or do you want? Sorry, questions of staff. Okay, seeing none, then to speak. Councillor Doucette.
I think this is a great initiative. You know I support skating. Sorry, I couldn't resist. I think it's a wonderful idea. I think it gets people outside. It gets them, the community coming together. It's for young, for old, for everyone to participate. I think it's a great fact that the BIA is helping. BIAs are very important to our communities, as we all know. As actually at the Tabia AGM the other night. Great to see so many people out. I think this is wonderful. I'm sure it's got complete staff report, and therefore I think this is great. I think it would be nice to do more of these sort of things in areas where we don't have quite so much park space as people would like, and use those spaces we've got for new initiatives. So got my 1000% support.
Great, thank you. And Councillor Layton?
Thank you very much. Just very quickly, I'd encourage staff to look at the possibility of how we might license around these areas, of course with the local councillors' support, because when you go to centres over Europe and they have these beautiful outdoor rinks during the holiday season, there's nothing like having a cup of mulled wine or some kind of local hot cider just to liven up the mood, and perhaps that's something that the BIA can support as well. I certainly hope that the path the path currently being contemplated for the Fort York neighborhood, I think that we'll be looking at that as well. So I would just that's me posting my notice for future AGCO applications for maybe not this rink, but certainly others in my neighborhood.
Great, thank you, Councillor Layton. And Councillor Cressy?
Yeah, very briefly, I'm happy to support the recommendations, but I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment to talk quickly about the Downtown Yonge BIA. Their commitment around public realm is evident, and we're seeing that in the donation here today, as well as their ongoing work around economic development. But I just don't want to pass up an opportunity to not mention their equally strong commitment to social justice and equity. Whether with the Yonge Street Mission, where they have been strong partners, including hiring youth from the Yonge Street Mission, to their involvement around discussions over supervised injection. It's a BIA that leads on economic development, on public realm, and on building an equitable city. And I want to commend them on all fronts and happy to support the recommendations.
Great, thank you. And to move the staff recommendations, Councillor Doucette, all those in favor? Opposed, and that carries. And so moving on to the next item, this is Councillor Ojimeri.
Thank you.
Did you want to question staff?
I'd like to say a few things first, please. I need advice from this panel on this item. On the one hand, I've questioned staff, and I understand that there are no cameras, no security cameras in any of our parks, except in our community centers. In the past, when we've had murders in our community centers, they've subsequently ensured that the cameras would be in working order. We usually wait until something terrible happens and then react. Something terrible has happened at Roding in the last 3 years, and we've had repeated sexual assaults during the day on young girls. The community has tried many ways to deal with it. We formed a working neighborhood watch. We have people jogging in pairs. We have the seniors in the area walking together in groups. Day before yesterday, we had a neighborhood walk for women. But, you know, women are too nice. Women are too nice. We're loath to say to men, stop stalking us, stop walking with us, stop walking behind us. We have a real problem here. In fact, we had a man following our women's only group, and he only ran away when police showed up. This is the reality of, I think, all of our parks, or most of our parks. This is not solely about Roding Park. I understand that staff are loath to create a precedent. And if they say yes to this request, not today, but in the months to come after they study it, as I believe they're going to do, they're going to say, we're setting a precedent, so let's not do it. It's easy to get rid of this item today and just give it to staff. But I would like the committee, if possible, we have 3 men on this committee who I know are very sensitive to women's issues. We have 3 men on this committee who have proven through their political work that are committed to protecting women's lives. We have a community now that is afraid to use their local park. This park is full of trails. It's one of our biggest parks. And looking at it every day, I feel that it's not being used as much as it used to be because of the Whisper campaign. There's something lurking in the park. Police have assured us that they're going to be on bicycles this summer more than ever, and we'll ride through. At this point, I don't know what else to recommend. We're in partnership with MetTrack, and we're going to do the audits. We're applying for POL funding to try to get more equipment in the park so that it will attract more use. What else can be done? So as we're going to do today, we're going to pass the recommendation that it go to staff. I don't want them just to rubber stamp this and say, no, we want to set a precedent, it's too expensive, we can't afford it. Cameras in parks can be broken anyway, anyone can wear a mask or a hood. I know all that. We need help. We're a community that's asking for help.
Thank you. So we'll just go questions of staff, and that way we'll just stick to the procedures. Councillor Doucette.
I was just trying to look at this park on Google Street, but obviously it only goes to the street rather than into the park. I do see that there is a couple of pathways going through. How is the lighting in this park right now? I'm going to go to staff, Maria. That's okay. That's okay. I want to hear so how is the lighting in this park right now? I mean, I know in my parks we discourage people using it in the evenings, but daytime, sometimes even just the lighting in the early evenings would help. So,
Councillor, I haven't been there myself, but my understanding is that we've improved some of the lighting on the north end of the park by the community center. And I think what we really need to do here is take a sort of our CPTED approach, crime prevention through environmental design. We go in there with the counselor, the police, the community representatives, and we look at what kinds of things can we do to improve the park so that there's more eyes in the park. And that may look at things like lighting, but sometimes lighting can create a false sense of security. You stand in the light and you feel safe, but beyond where you can't see because it's dark, there could be somebody lurking who can see you quite well and set up their intended action. So we have to look at all of those things, and we do that together with police and community. So the community can say, these are the experiences. The police can say, this is how we approach these things. The Parks Division, the local staff can learn about that. And together, it's an approach. Lighting is one aspect, but sight lines, just through maybe tree pruning is another.
I was about to say
There's a
that.
lot of things, but there's some forested areas in this park. So, short of clearing trees, we can't address all the lighting and hiding place type issues. So what we need is people in the park and activity and so on.
So a couple of things. When I did a walk around with the police down on Lakeshore many years ago with some of our park staff, and they did support pruning trees up, moving bushes, just so there weren't places to hide. The other thing, when you're looking at the lighting, can you make sure it's white lighting, not the orange lighting? Orange lighting, the police say, isn't as easy to see a person, identify colors and things like that. You need that really crisp white lighting. Have you considered putting a community garden in here? Have you considered putting some exercise equipment in here? I know that the exercise equipment we have in our ward draws people, all different age groups, I think all different times of the day and night, but it's, again, something which if the community are going to feel safe, if it's an open neighborhood, an open area, they'll come and use, which I think might help you get some eyes on the park, in the park.
Yes, and when the recent unfortunate incidents happened again in this park, assaults and so on, that's where, staff have now said, look, we've got to go back there and take this sort of CEPTED approach here. And so we would look at anything that would be from an environmental improvement, such as things like pruning up trees or improving sight lines, right on through to landscape improvements, or maybe it's that we need a newer playground, so there's a whole lot more families that are there and a whole lot more people. At this point, I just don't know. I haven't been there personally myself yet, but that kind of an approach is what we need, and that's what we do wherever we have these kinds of problems.
So what I'm hearing is that you're really going to take a really good look at this park. You're not just walking through to make sure the lights are on. You're going to look at bringing activities in and doing a full report so we can get the community back into a park.
Correct, and I mean, it's not that we wouldn't consider cameras.
But that's one aspect you look at.
That is one aspect, and there is a corporate policy, and it's our corporate security folks that do the monitoring of security cameras everywhere. So we have to work with them on that kind of work as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And other questions of staff? No, seeing none. Okay to speak.
So I'll move the motion, and in order to answer what Councillor Doucette had said about adult exercise equipment, that's one of the issues that came up during the Women's Walk 2 nights ago, and we decided to apply for that. It's not an expensive item, and we decided to apply for it in a very tight area first, and then expand further into the park once people feel better about being in the space again. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we waiting? Because we can go to other speakers if, sure, Councillor Doucette.
I think this is great. I think one of it's, lights and cameras are one thing, but I think if, as the councillor says, if the community feels safe in the park, that's what we need to do. Put some activities in there which will bring people in. I don't know if you've got community groups who run day camps or something, even if you could have kids, playing in the park, doing activities in the park, maybe not in the secluded areas, but do step at a time, get them back into the park. Exercise equipment brings so many people to an area. We were actually stunned by how many people used our exercise equipment along Lakeshore. And the people I do meet say they want it all the way along Lakeshore now. They want every councillor who has a Lakeshore to add this exercise equipment. It's so amazing. And it's inexpensive compared to playgrounds. So I think I'm hearing from staff that they're thinking outside the box. They're not just going on one item. They'll look at cameras, but they'll look at everything else as well. And I think that's the way we need to look at this park. It's such a shame to have a big, beautiful open space and it's not being used. So if the motion is ready, I will stop talking. Thank you.
I think it's ready. Yeah. Great. Thanks, Councillor Doucette. Councillor Cressy?
Thank you, and I have a motion, if it could be put on the screen. This is that the General Manager of Parks, Forestry and Rec include in the report additional safety measures such as sightlines that could be undertaken. And I understand from staff that the timeline that is being proposed in the letter from Councillor Ajameri of June is not possible if it could be moved to September as a friendly amendment. Let me just say a couple things. First of all, I think it is fitting and appropriate that today, which is Walk a Mile Day, when men walk together to stop violence against women. Councillor Perks has walked in this. Councillor Layton, I understand, is walking today. It is a walk when men come together to support gender equality. That's fitting. In Ward 9 and throughout the city, too many women walk and live in fear from abuse that is perpetrated primarily by men, and it is a symptom of an imbalance of power. And we have a great deal more that we can do as a city. I'll say, and I'll be honest in this, that I have deep concerns that cameras, according to research, don't act as a deterrent or a preventative measure when it comes to stopping violence. I have concerns about that. I have not seen research that says that it works. And I do question if there are other measures that could be undertaken and invested in, which we should do, to ensure that women, especially in this park and the history that has taken place in recent years, can walk safely and without fear. And I do recognize that in order to get to that point, measures need to be undertaken, even just so that the comfort is there. And so I'm prepared to support this motion today for staff to tell us what they think and to have that conversation. I want to commend and recognize more than 30 years of work on issues related to equity and equality by Councillor Ajameri. And I'll be supporting this motion, notwithstanding some concerns I have related to cameras, but recognizing that overall we need to do more and see what staff tell us. And for those reasons, I'm prepared well, not prepared, I'm pleased to support Councillor Ajameri's motion.
Great. And questions of the mover? Seeing none? Okay, I'll just speak really quickly. So I'll be supporting the motion, and also just to further expand upon not to just limit it to cameras, but to look beyond that as well. I know I've had cameras on my own house and have had incidences, and even though it's caught on camera, there's really no effect that it has even when the police see it. So it's limiting, and that's why I want staff to go beyond cameras and to look at other avenues, including cameras, though, for sure. I know it's always the number one, I think, default position of staff, and staff do a great job. But just saying that there's limitations, staff know that, so it seems to be a default position. But we definitely want to take a look at that. Also, increased lighting, even though Councillor Ajameri has mentioned it does happen during the day, these incidences. But to see what other improvements can happen. As Councillor Doucette was saying, I've put these, the adult play and workout fitness equipment in many of my parks, and I thank staff so much for bringing that forward. It's such a great idea, and it's used very much by residents in my own ward and runners and people that are running in my ward as well. So it's fantastic equipment, and also for something for adults to do when they bring their children in there. So I think that hopefully with staff going in, with Councillor Ajameri, with members of the community, they can take a review of this park and see what else can be done. And I'll also mention, if you can add in here, a butterfly garden, because we always have to look at those as well. And if not that, then also a community garden. Just more engagement in the park, I think, is required. And I just heard Councillor Cressy's comment there. I don't think that that's the issue. I think it's just more engagement in the park. whatever brings people into the park, more use is better. So I hope that staff look at everything that can be added into the park. There's always a cost, but whatever we can do to improve these parks, it would be great. So all that being said, all those in favor of Councillor Cressy's motion? Approved, and that carries. And the date, of course, and that will be September. Okay? And as item as amended, approved, and that carries. And that wraps up this meeting for today. Thanks so much. Thanks.
One signature for the minutes.
Oh, great. Can I do pen? Yeah.